So here we are. Video number 2. This is my 10 most anticipated crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Gamefound, arriving in 2024. If you missed the first video, I'll throw the link right here, right above me right now. I will also put the link down in the description below. I did 25 through 11. Quick summary here at the beginning before we get into the part of things that you came for. I am not including games that I don't think are going to arrive in 2024. Basically anything from Awakened Realms from this past year. Stalker, Dragon Eclipse, as well as obviously Nemesis Retaliation. A couple Simon games. Mordred, not going to show up. One of the zombie sides, probably not going to show up, Deceased. So those things, not going to be on this list. But the things that are. I covered a lot of stuff in 25 through 11. There are also some big hitters that didn't make the list because I just ran out of room. But now we get to the most anticipated, my most anticipated. And again, my criteria for this is, do I think it's going to be a freaking good game? Has to, right? Has to be on that from that side of things. But criteria number 2, how excited still am I for it? Number 3, how accessible, and I mean how easy am I going to be able to get to the table? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes between backing and getting, that changes. And your tastes change. And the last part of this is high potential, but some of these also have a lot more risk as well in terms of whether or not I'm going to like it, or just frankly speaking, whether or not they're actually going to be as good as they were hyped, shilled for, whatever you want to say during the campaign in a nutshell. I'm a shill. I'll raise my hand, right? You can call me that in the comment section down below. That's enough preamble. Let's go. Number 10. Andromeda's freaking Edge, folks. Andromeda's Edge, right? Everyone is like, this is the better dwellings of Elderville. Elderville in space. Comparisons. 37,000 different factions. All asymmetric. You get your own faction. You get your own faction. You get your own faction. Oh, man. Talk about one of the most hyped games I've ever seen, right? Cardboard Alchemy. Just absolutely hyped beyond belief. And this is one of those games I wonder if people are all of a sudden going to play it and go, this is my new number 1 of all time, right? We've seen that like each of the past 3 or 4 years when that's come out, right? We saw it with Dwellings of Elderville. We saw it with Ark Nova. We saw it with Earth. All of a sudden, these games are just like shooting up to number 1s and you go, what? What? That's crazy. It's crazy, folks. It's crazy talk. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm inserting that as many videos as I can too. So number 10, I mean, right? Did you totally legendarily deluxify it over the top 3.0 version? Or did you go halvesies like I did? Just the semi-deluxe version? I mean, right? Is this going to replace Dwellings of Elderville for you? Is it? Is it going to be better? Are you going to prefer one or the other? You probably are. You're probably going to do one of these where you either prefer this or the original and not both. Unless you're a collector and you just can't afford to get rid of stuff, or you don't like getting rid of stuff, or nobody buys games in the secondary market, so it's really hard to get rid of stuff in the first place. And are they going to have a shortfall like they did with Dwellings? I have no idea. I mean, Dwellings, sort of reminds me of Wingspan in the sense that the actual supply never has met the demand. And yeah, they're doing these prints, and there's on something like the 4th print run right now of it. And I understand it keeps the hype up. It keeps the demand up. You don't want to overprint. You don't want to stock stuff in, supply and just have it sitting there and costing you money from that aspect. So we'll see if it's going to live up to the hype. And you know what? I'll be one of those first people that's going to tell you, because I got a copy coming my way. I'm a backer, folks. Probably shouldn't have been. But I am. So there you go. Money wasted on Liege games right there. So wife's going to hate me for that deluxified, oversized massive mess. Speaking of oversized, massive messes, Primal the Frickin' Awakening is number 9. Did you even remember that game was out there? Did you remember that game was coming from Reggie? Folks, in case you're not familiar, this was what everyone thought Monster Hunter was going to be, right? This is the most anticipated miniature game from like 2 years ago. People were blowing up over this at like 2021, and that's when it funded. So we are like over 2 years, and it's going to be sometime Q1, Q2-ish when it actually gets to us. But they're just locking in shipping around the time I'm filming this right now. And they're saying shipping, shipping for me, I'll tell you right now, shipping for me, I have the all-in. Shipping for me, 79 euros. Ooh, a lot of people were backing out. Do you know why it's 79 euros? For the all-in, the weight of this thing is like 26 kilograms. 26 kilograms. You can do the math there in the comment section, how much that actually is. So 79 euros, folks. I don't think there's ever been a box, if that is really what it is. Like the base game is like 13 kilos or 10 kilos. And the stretch goals expansions are like another 16. That is freaking insane. That is insane. I can't even express that into a proper reaction here, folks. But if this game falls flat, I am going to be, whew, right? Because we're talking well over 300 euros then for any of you that are in my boat. Because even if you were the early bird, they did like the 72-hour early bird all in at the beginning of the campaign, which again, I give them a ton of kudos for this game. They laid all the cards on the table from the second the campaign launched, and I love that. I hate this nickel and diming add-on stuff. Simon, Awakened Realms, everybody else that does that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. And so, regardless, I give them a lot of kudos. And yeah, those shipping prices are jacked up. They're absorbing, they said, some of the freight, and that's a huge package. The Simon ones are like half that weight, and it's $50. So, I mean, I can't say I'm really expressed, unfortunately. I am, but I'm not. But essentially, if you're not familiar with the game itself, I mean, yeah, you have these characters, stances, card-based issued system with monsters that have an AI system that you're going to be fighting. Only the difference is you're going to be moving around the monster as opposed to moving over a grid-based system. And so this thing is either going to be revolutionary, and other people are going to utilize it like they give KDM with Aeon Trespass Odyssey, or I can see it, if it's just not good, it's going to be the next Dark Souls. And so that's why it has such high potential, but it has such a risk to go along with it too. I have absolutely no idea, but that's why it's number 9 on this list and not any lower or any higher as well at the same time. Number eight is sitting right next to me over here. 2 things actually on this list, 3 things actually on this list. They're all having their cousins, relatives, or neighbors over here. Keep the heroes out. The boss battles. Boss battles is coming. Boss battles. Yep. This is a great cooperative game. It's on my top 10 of 2022. Still here. Still love it. Getting more of it. And now you can throw in bosses that you can fight, but also add to be able to play with. Yeah. It's like a reverse tower defense game where you're the baddies and you get to fight off the good guys that are invading your dungeon trying to steal your loot. The meeples are awesome. The gameplay is great. The scenarios are totally diverse and tons in number. The difficulty scales completely. And so you're giving me more of an awesome thing. And to be frank, a lot of the rest of this list, almost, it's funny. I look at this list right now. Almost the rest of this top 10 is more of great things. And that's both awesome because it means you know what you're getting. It's also terrifying because a lot of this stuff is stuff that you go, do I need all of this stuff for this game? No, I don't. You don't, Chris. You don't whatsoever. But that one, that's why it's on number 8. I just love it. I mean, look at the smile on my face, folks. You can't fake this. Can't fake this genuine excitement. And that's why I love doing this video, because you're going to see this with a lot more of this. Number 7, it's sitting right down over here. I can't pick it up because there's Senjutsu as well as Lords of Ragnarok sitting on top of it. And that is more Guards of Atlantis 2. This is one of the best games that your wallet never needs to hear about. This is one of the best games that is overpriced. But actually, the expansions, let's be clear, the expansions. The core price on this second Gamefound campaign was actually terrific. But they're giving you more content, more teams. You don't need any more teams. The base game is more than enough. This game is so difficult accessibility-wise, but it's probably the best skirmish, dueling, lane battling, all-in-one, I don't know, asymmetric powers game that I've ever played. And so the accessibility is the only reason it's not higher on this list. Purely and simply. It's the only reason it's not more high on this list. I love this game. It's never going to go anywhere. Even if I get it to the table once a year, that is more than enough for me at this point. It's a forever game. It's a top 25 game. I have no qualms about saying that. You're going to get a fantastic gameplay experience if you are anything like me and love what this can bring to the table. Indie designer, indie publisher, and not wide at retail. So I'm happy to say that I'm going to be getting all of it. And was it expensive? Expansion wise, yeah, it probably was. It's probably too expensive. You do that sometimes for the ones you really want to support. It's okay. Number 6, sitting right here, actually on top of Keep the Heroes Out. Mythic Mischief Volume II. This isn't a game for everybody. It's not. It's faction-based, asymmetric, abstract manipulation on a board. with a little bit of predetermined actions via the librarian who moves across and tries to capture you as you maneuver your opponents into its way. Factions are not all going to be for you. You're going to have at least 1 or 2 misses in a box as a whole, but the ones that you find that are just great are just fantastic. And again, huge abstract lover. Again, Ivy Studios here puts out an absolutely fantastic product. You can argue, yeah, it's a premium product. It's a little overpriced because they put in a lot of deluxifications and upgrades like your Roxleys or like your Chip Theories that you maybe don't need. But I just love this game. This is another game that is just giving me more of an awesome, good thing. And I can't complain about that. It's just fantastic. I just absolutely love it game. And it gives me a little bit of an abstract, a little bit of theme. Do I need the theme? No. Does it work though? Yeah, it does. And I like it for that aspect of things. So there you go. Number 5. This one, again, I hype this one as one of my favorite games on crowdfunding from this past year. If you watched the video, it's higher than the other Knizia game on this list. And that's Cascadero. It's the new one. And again, like I said on the 11 to 25 video when I talked about Through the Desert, which I think I ranked at 15, this one, now having played it, I mean, I basically played a final copy of it. There weren't really going to be any rules changes. Production-wise, it's going to be almost the same. And it's just another great tile hex-based Knizia game. I don't think there's a whole lot of unknown with it for those reasons. So its ceiling is probably already known from me, but its basement is also known from me, which is why it's 5 on this list. I think it's that good. You know, get my copy next year, and I'll tell you, Bitewing Games, you know, that's going to be 2 years in a row that you're going to have a top 10 game on my list. Spoilers for my top 10 games of the year, right? Which Bitewings game is going to be on the top 10 list? I don't know, Chris. What were the other ones that came out this year? There's not a big sampling. You can probably figure it out. But it's just freaking amazing. And it does things in a slightly different way. It's a combination of Babylonia as well as Blue Lagoon, taking a different spin on, you don't necessarily want to be the first one around each of the cities, but if you are the second or the third, you're going to actually get more points on the scoring track, and the scoring track is done differently than the usual typical point scorings in the first place. And it just is different than all those other ones. So I feel completely comfortable and not at all an issue with having it in my collection, because it's also shorter than Babylonia. It's probably almost shorter than Blue Lagoon, and it's easier to teach probably than either of them as well. So that is unique in and of itself, and why it's number 5 on this list. Number 4, boom, baby, boom, baby, boom. Cthulhu Death May Die. Season 2. Season 3. Campaign 2. Season 3. Whatever it is. And we're just getting more of it. I was almost tempted to sell my first one because I think this is going to be very similar to Marvel United versus Marvel United X-Men, where the second time around, they've made the upgrades, they've made the changes, they've got just more stuff, and you don't even need this. I think the actual content in this and the Unspeakable box, comparatively to the new stuff, you're actually getting a better deal on the new stuff. I think. I can't remember. Maybe it's the other way around. I covered it during the campaign. But I think it's just going to be overall better. And I don't think, but again, referring to Dune Imperium Uprising here, I don't think you're going to need both. I think having both is going to be sort of redundant, but I'm getting most of it, almost all of it. And so I've made my peace with that. And it's a great game. It is probably the best dungeon crawl-esque game that I have played, period. So I have no qualms about saying that. Accessibility, modularity, difficulty, all of those things are just in a great sweet spot. I'd make the argument that is the second best CMON game ever. Second best CMON game ever. Can you guess what the first one is? It's also somehow in the top of the list here. And so it's just going to hit all of those boxes, check marks, and it's going to be compatible. So if I don't want to get rid of it, well, I can mess around with it. I just worry about power creep because, you know, just like with Marvel United, spoilers, there are some in season 1 now of Marvel United that are just, you just don't want to play with because they're just not as good. They're just not. And that's what I worry about with this being season 3 and season 4-ish, even though second time around. I could totally see them coming back with another crowdfunding campaign for this in like 2025, folks. I could. You know, you strike what makes you money, right? You strike where the oil is. So there you go. That is number 4. Number 3. I wasn't going to get this. I told myself I wasn't going to get it. I didn't see a whole lot of reason to get it on crowdfunding, and yet my kids love it, and I just couldn't say no because it's also getting me a little bit extra, and the Adventures mission system from Marvel Dice Throne X-Men was just unavoidable. So I went in on it, and shortly after I film this video, or shortly after this video airs, I will probably be filling out my pledge manager and getting it all, unfortunately. So I told myself I shouldn't, and I just couldn't stop myself. So I don't know. It's Dice Throne, right? You either love it or hate it. It's, you know, thematically asymmetric Yahtzee chucking powers, but now with an X-Men theme, now with a Marvel theme, more of a Marvel theme. I didn't think all of the characters were, terribly as interesting as I would have liked, mechanically speaking, but also personally speaking of which characters were chosen. That being said, you know what? I don't really care. They chose what they chose. They did what they did. And I think it's going to be a solid quality product as a whole. And the fact that my kids love it puts it so much higher. Games that they're going to request, games that I can get to the table, folks. That is going to trump almost anything else on this criteria or this list. And that's why it's number 3, because I know that it's going to have that influence as a whole for them. And so I can't deny that. I think this mission system is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be different enough, as I wasn't a fan of Dice Throne Adventures, but this one's going to be better as a whole. So I'm putting it out there as a number 3 already. So number 2 and number 1, they were a toss-up. I won't lie to you. Number 2 here, Bullet. Bullet Exceed. Well, you know what? We're just going to call it Bullet Exceed because it's level 99 games. The Bullet universe. I own everything for Bullet right now. I will own both of these Bullet expansions from the Bullet universe crowdfunding campaign by the end of 2024. Bullet is a top 5 game for me all time, period. I absolutely love Bullet. Exceed is a top 10 or 15 game for me all time as well. The Guilty Gear, I talked about it. I have the sample demo deck sitting right up there, still in my collection. I just fantastically love this game as a whole. And so the fact that they're giving us more, they're giving us more asymmetry, they're giving us more combinations, especially with Bullet. Again, very similar to Mythic Mischief there, where you're going to find a couple of these characters, the felines in this case is one of the expansions, the Bullet Paw expansion. You're probably not going to like them, but you know what? The game system is revolutionary. Bullet, I think, is actually, I believe, their top selling game, period. And it shows because this game is just tremendous. And I love the fact that they said, you know what? We're not going to pay for previews. We're not going to pay for ads over the internet. We're just going to go off of word of mouth. And I think it paid off. They got a couple $100,000 in the crowdfunding campaign. And the other thing is because, well, it probably didn't raise as much as it could have because there were no exclusives. There was a whole lot of reason to get it necessarily on the crowdfunding campaign. But that also means, in retrospect, in review, putting on your glasses and taking a look back and seeing that means a lot of people are probably going to pick this up at retail, just like they did with the original. So there you go. It's a real time. I love the real time. It's a solo. It's cooperative against a boss. You're taking your bullets from the bag, slotting them down your little tree, manipulating them with your spell powers or your configurations, with your asymmetric abilities, with your heroines, and then you're taking those bullets that you shoot off of your board and you give them in a large stack at the end of the round to the person that is next to you, and they have to deal with those amount of extra tokens until everybody but one person busts, and that person wins in the regular game. And it's a real-time game. I love the real-time element. It feels rushed, but you still feel like you have control. And that is the perfect dynamic balance in a game like this. So there you go. And Exceed, I've talked about Exceed at length at times. And so I just smushed these two together because, right? 2A and 2B. 2A and 2B. Probably 2A is going to be Bullet and 2B is Exceed. So there you go. So what's number 1? I mean, I already hinted at it. I already said it. What's going to be number 1 here? Mentioned it, alluded to it. I've got the latest expansion from retail right here, Marvel United. This is Spider-Geddon, but we're talking about Season 3, the multiverse from Simon. I all-in it. I shouldn't have. Again, speaking of Marvel Dice Throne, alluding to that all-in I shouldn't have done. Primal all-in I shouldn't have done. This is another all-in I shouldn't have done. But this is by far and away my most played game over the last 2 years. My kids absolutely adore it. It's easy to play two-handed. I love the asymmetry. Spider-Geddon here is a great starting point if you're unfamiliar or you're looking for just a simple core box to get into. It has all of the upgrades of Season 3, essentially, almost. And it has none of the downsides, essentially, as well. Well, 1 or 2, but that's a whole separate video. But the biggest issue is that I'm probably not going to keep a lot of it. Right? As weird as this sounds. Because just like with Season 1 and Season 2, I don't feel like all of the expansions are created equal. And I ended up selling quite a few of them, or getting rid of a few of them. And that's probably what's going to happen here with Multiverse. The core expansion, the one that gets put in the main pledge level that you can get at the higher pledge level, tends to be, at least with the first 2 seasons, just that much better. It's clearly given the most attention, the most detail, and the most balancing. The other ones are totally, your mileage may vary. And so that's what you risk. That's why I just got them all this time. Previously in season 2, the Deadpool one, the Fantastic Four one didn't have any appeal to me whatsoever. And thankfully, they are not very well thought of comparatively to some of the other better ones. Not that they're bad. I'm not saying that. Don't quote me that in the comment section, crap. But they're just not as good overall. So this is a great starting spot. Now, if you have a bunch of stuff already, this one may be a little bit of a pass for you as well, too. Again, watch my video. It's either going to be coming shortly before this or shortly after this as well, talking about this one as a whole. So that is why it's number 1. Can't help it. Unabashedly, huge fan of the best CMON game that they put out, Marvel United. So just eagerly waiting for DC United. And spoilers, that was my most anticipated game of coming to crowdfunding in 2024. Not that we have confirmation, but, you know, you don't make the allusion to it at the very last update during the campaign of Deceased, the Zombicide game as well, if you didn't already have that under your belt. And you've already got the DC license, so it's coming. Which means I could avoid the zombie DC game, but I'm not sure I can avoid the DC United game. Probably not, folks. Probably not. That's all I got. There you go. There you go. Link down below. If you missed 11 through 25, put that in the description. And thank you for checking this out. Let me know how I'm wrong. Let me know which ones I missed. Let me know how I'm wrong with the ones I did talk about in the first place. Let me know what's your most anticipated as well. I love hearing it. I love seeing it. So let me know what you think. Throw me a thumb. Throw me a sub if you've made it this far and you're not. I am over 9,000! DBZ reference. I'm done. Again, I told you I'm throwing in a bunch of clips right now until you guys get me to 10K. Stay classy. Peace out. See you around.